Welcome to Science for Sleepy Minds. Tonight, your room can be completely still, with only the quiet weight of the blanket and the soft dimness of the light, and yet far away, Jupiter is never still at all. Somewhere beyond the walls and the rooftops, beyond the thin air and the weather of Earth, there is a world that keeps turning even while you rest. It feels like a contradiction, doesn't it? That something so huge can move so smoothly, almost like a slow thought drifting through the dark. And here is the gentle curiosity I want to leave open for you, like a door that stays slightly ajar. What is Jupiter quietly doing right now that we don't notice but that still matters? You don't need to stay awake for all of it, not even close. If your mind drifts, that's perfect. By the end of this time together, you'll have a simple, calming picture of Jupiter's nighttime work, and it will feel less like a distant planet and more like a steady presence in the background of our solar system. You can let your eyes stay closed if they already are. You can let the muscles in your face soften, even if only a little. And if your thoughts are busy tonight, you don't need to fight them. You can let them float beside you like quiet boats on a dark lake, while we place our attention gently on something far away and soothing. This is a place for slow learning and deep rest. There is no test waiting for you. There is no pressure to remember. You can simply listen, and if you fall asleep in the middle of a sentence, then the science will keep going without you, like a river moving through the night. If you enjoy having calm science in your evenings, you can subscribe or leave a like in whatever way feels easy. And now you can let that idea go and return to the softness of the moment you're in. Let's begin by helping your body understand that it's safe to rest. Take a slow breath in a way that feels comfortable, and then let it out a little more slowly, like letting air leave a balloon without rushing it. Nothing forced, nothing counted. Just the simple feeling of in and out. The breath, if you'd like, in gently and out softly. As you exhale, imagine you're smoothing a wrinkle out of a sheet, small, patient and kind. Now bring your attention to your forehead. You might notice tiny lines you didn't realize you were holding. Let them loosen as if warm water is passing over your skin. Let your jaw unclench. If your teeth are touching, let them separate. Your tongue can rest, heavy and calm in the bottom of your mouth. Let your shoulders drop by one small step, not all at once, just enough to feel the difference. And if you notice you're holding your arms stiffly, let them sink into the bed as if the mattress is gently welcoming them. Bring the same kindness to your hands. Many people hold tension there without noticing. Let your fingers soften. Let your palms open, even if they're not literally open, just relaxed. Let your belly rise and fall without being controlled. It knows how to breathe without your help. Let it do its job quietly. And now your legs. The muscles in your thighs can release. Your knees can feel heavy. Your calves can soften. Your feet can fall outward, relaxed, as if they've been waiting all day for permission to stop. Notice how the bed holds you. It doesn't ask you to do anything, it simply supports you, the way gravity supports a moon, not with effort, but with steady presence. You don't have to hold yourself upright now, you're allowed to be held. And as your body settles, we'll begin to drift toward Jupiter, slowly, like turning your head in a dream to look at something bright and distant. Imagine a quiet window, open just a little to the night air. Or imagine you're standing outside for a moment, wrapped in something warm, with the world around you mostly asleep. The sky is dark, but not empty. It has a depth to it, like velvet. There are stars scattered across it like fine grains of salt. Not sharp, not loud, just present. Somewhere in that sky there is a point of light that looks calm and steady. It could be mistaken for a star if you didn't know what you were seeing. But it is not a star. It is a planet. And it's so large that it almost feels like its own category of thing. That point of light is Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system. Even saying that softly can feel like too much, like trying to imagine a mountain made of cloud. So we'll take it slowly. We won't try to carry the whole scale at once. We'll approach it the way you approach sleep, one gentle step at a time. Jupiter is far away, and yet it's part of the same neighborhood as your bed, your breath, and the roof above you. The light that reaches your eyes, if you are looking at it, has traveled through space, quietly crossing the distance with no sound at all. And the planet itself is there, doing what it always does, whether anyone is watching or not. If you've ever watched a night lamp glowing in another room, you know the feeling. You don't need to go into that room, you don't need to touch the lamp. Just seeing the light can make you feel less alone. Jupiter can be like that. A distant glow that reminds you the universe is wide and still and moving. So what is Jupiter really, when we stop thinking of it as a bright dot and start thinking of it as a world? Jupiter is a planet, which simply means it is a large object that travels around the Sun. It is not a star, it does not make its own light the way the Sun does. It shines in our sky because it reflects sunlight, like a quiet mirror. But Jupiter is not a rocky world like Earth, where you can imagine fields and stones and solid ground underfoot. Jupiter is what we call a gas giant, which simply means it is made mostly of thick gases and fluids, not solid land. That word, gas, can be confusing at first. When you hear gas, you might picture something thin and invisible, like air in your room. But Jupiter's gases are not thin like that. They are deep, heavy and layered. They behave like an ocean of air with waves and currents and storms only far larger than anything we know on Earth. If Earth is a world where you can stand, Jupiter is more like a world where you would float. Not like floating in a pool, but like floating in layers of cloud that grow thicker and warmer as you go deeper. And that leads to a gentle, interesting idea. When you think of going down on Earth, it usually means you're going towards solid ground. But on Jupiter, down is not a sudden arrival at a surface. Down is a slow change, like moving through fog that becomes thicker and thicker until it starts to feel like a different kind of place. Picture the top of Jupiter's atmosphere, the part we would call its cloud tops. This is where the planet shows its famous stripes, pale bands and darker bands stretched around the globe like soft ribbons. Those cloud tops are not like a thin blanket. They are the visible skin of a deep system. Below them are more layers, more pressure, more heat, more motion. It's like looking at the surface of the ocean and remembering that beneath it is an entire world of currents. If you try to imagine standing on Jupiter, your mind will probably look for a flaw. It will search for something solid, because that's what human minds do. We like clear edges, we like surfaces, but Jupiter is a reminder that nature does not always give us a neat boundary. And there is something soothing in that, if you let it be. Not everything real has to be hard and solid. Some things are real as motion, real as pressure, real as flow. A wind can shape a desert without having hands. A current can carve a coastline without any tools. Jupiter is a whole world made of that kind of quiet power. You might wonder, if there's no solid surface, what is at the center of Jupiter? What holds it together? The simplest answer is gravity, which is the gentle pull that keeps things together. Gravity is what holds you in bed right now, without asking you to do anything. Gravity is what holds the air close to Earth, and gravity is what gathers Jupiter into a sphere, keeping its layers wrapped around its deep interior. Jupiter's gravity is strong, not in a frightening way, but in a steady way. It's the reason Jupiter can hold on to so much gas, keeping it from drifting away into space. It's the reason Jupiter can be so large and still feel from far away like a single calm presence. When you picture Jupiter, it can help to picture it as a stack of layers. Not layers like a cake with sharp lines between them, but layers like the sea where the water near the surface feels different from the water deep below. At the top you have the clouds we can see. Below that the gases become thicker, the pressure increases, the temperatures rise, and deeper still the planet's materials behave in ways that are hard to picture from daily life because the conditions are so different from anything in your room tonight. But you don't have to picture all of it clearly. You can let it remain a soft mystery at the edges. It's enough to hold a gentle image, a huge world of swirling layers like a slow, endless storm ocean wrapped around a hidden center. And now we can ask the title's question again, with a little more calm clarity. What is Jupiter quietly doing while we sleep? One answer is simply this. Jupiter is turning, it is spinning on its axis, which means it is rotating like a top, like a wheel, like Earth itself turning from day to night. But Jupiter rotates in its own way, at its own pace, and that spinning shapes almost everything about how it looks and how it behaves. Here is something familiar to begin with. Think about wind around a house at night. You might hear it brushing a tree, sliding along the edge of a roof, finding tiny gaps and making soft sounds. Even gentle wind has patterns. It moves around corners, it gathers and releases. Now imagine wind on a planet with no continents, no mountains, no forests, no cities. Imagine wind on a planet made of layers, where air can flow far and wide without being interrupted by land. The patterns become grand, like long bands of movement that can wrap around the whole world. Jupiter's spinning helps create those bands. When a planet spins, moving air is guided into patterns. It's like stirring a cup of tea. The motion encourages swirls and currents. And on Jupiter, that stirring has been going on for a very long time. So when you see Jupiter's stripes, you're seeing winds and flows. You're seeing the planet's atmosphere organized into wide bands, some lighter, some darker, each with its own style of motion. The lighter bands and darker bands are not just paint, they are regions where the atmosphere is moving differently. Some regions have air rising, some have air sinking, some are like slow up breaths, and some are like slow down breaths. If you've ever watched steam rise from a cup of tea, you've seen rising motion. If you've ever watched cool air sink near a window in winter, you've seen sinking motion. Jupiter is doing that too, just on a scale so large it feels like a dream. And those bands are always shifting. Even though Jupiter can look calm from far away, it is a world of motion. It is quietly rearranging its clouds, quietly moving heat, quietly pushing and pulling its atmosphere into patterns that repeat and evolve. This is where we can return to the quiet contradiction. Jupiter is the largest planet, which might make you think of it as slow and heavy, like something that barely changes, but its atmosphere can be lively, its clouds can race. Its winds can flow in strong streams, it is both massive and active, both steady and changing. If your mind is still awake enough to be curious, you might ask, where does Jupiter get the energy for all this motion? Why are its clouds so busy? Part of the answer is sunlight, the gentle warmth that reaches Jupiter from the sun. But there is also another part, a quieter part. Jupiter has heat inside it. It releases energy from within, like a slow warm stone that has been holding warmth all day. You don't need the details right now. You can simply hold the image. Jupiter is warmed from above by sunlight and warmed from below by its own deep interior. And between those two gentle sources of energy, the atmosphere moves like a slow conversation between sky and depth. That movement becomes weather. Weather on Earth can feel personal, it can change your mood, it can interrupt your day, but Jupiter's weather is far away from you. It cannot reach into your room, it cannot touch your life directly. You can look at it the way you look at rain through a window, safe and warm inside. It can be fascinating without being threatening. Jupiter's storms are famous, but you don't have to picture them as violent. You can picture them as vast, like wide spirals painted into cloud moving with patience and strength. You can picture yourself floating far above Jupiter's cloud tops, safe, warm and calm. The clouds below are like soft quilts stitched with stripes. They drift and curl and stretch as if the planet is exhaling very slowly. What would it feel like to watch patterns that large, without needing to do anything about them? No umbrella, no schedule, no errands, just quiet observation. As you imagine that, notice what it does to your own body. Often, when we watch something slow and patterned, our nervous system begins to mirror it. The mind starts to loosen its grip. The breath becomes smoother. The muscles soften without being told. So you can let Jupiter's bands be a kind of visual lullaby. And now, very gently, I want to place a small open loop in your mind. Not a sharp question, just a soft thread to follow later. Among Jupiter's many swirling patterns, there is a storm that has lasted for a very long time. It is shaped like an oval. It turns like a slow wheel in the clouds. It has its own personality, like a long-lived presence in the atmosphere. We won't rush into it. We'll approach it the way you approach sleep, with patience. But you can let your mind wonder, softly, how a storm can last so long on a world without solid ground. For now, you can return to what is simplest and most calming. Jupiter is a bright, quiet point in the sky. Jupiter is a world of layers, not a floor. Jupiter is always turning, always shaping its clouds into bands, always doing its steady, silent work. And you here in your bed are allowed to rest while it does. If you find that your attention is drifting, you can let it drift. You can follow the words for a moment, then let them blur. You can come back when you notice them again, like waking gently and then rolling over. Just for a moment, return to your breathing. In, softly. Out, slowly. Imagine the whole solar system as a quiet room. The sun is a warm lamp in the center. The planets are like slow-moving thoughts, each following a path that feels almost like routine. And Jupiter, the largest of them, is like a deep heart to be, still and present. It keeps spinning. Its clouds keep flowing, its bands keep forming and reforming. While we sleep, it continues, not loudly, not dramatically, but faithfully. In the next stretch of our drifting journey, we'll move closer to the details of Jupiter's weather, and the way its spinning helps shape those endless cloud rivers. And you can let that curiosity stay gentle, like a small light far down a hallway, while you relax more deeply into the dark comfort of your room. For now, let yourself sink another fraction into the bed. Let your shoulders be heavy. Let your jaw soften again. Let your eyes rest behind their lids as if they are looking at the inside of a calm, dark sky. And somewhere, far away, Jupiter turns. If you're still awake, you can let your attention settle again, the way snow settles after a quiet breeze. There's nothing you need to do to follow perfectly. You can listen in little pieces, you can drift in and out, and even if you only catch a few sentences, your body will still understand the feeling of slow, steady space. A moment ago, we were hovering above Jupiter's cloud tops in the imagination, safe and warm, watching those long bands wrap around the planet like ribbons. Now we can move just a little closer to the idea we left gently open like a soft thread. How can a storm last so long? On Earth, storms come and go. A storm arrives, it rains, it blows through, and then the sky changes again. Land gets in the way. Mountains break the wind. Coastlines reshape the air. And the ocean, the forests, and the cities all add their own texture to the weather. But Jupiter is different. Jupiter does not have continents. It does not have mountain ranges to split the wind. It is a world of layers, and the winds can flow for a long time without running into a hard boundary. That doesn't mean Jupiter's storms are stronger in a scary way. It simply means they can be more persistent. They can be like patterns in a giant moving quilt stitched by spinning motion and deep warmth. When you watch Jupiter through a telescope, or in images from spacecraft, you see a planet painted with motion. Bands curve gently. Small swirls appear and fade. And among them, there is one shape that has become almost like a symbol, the Great Red Spot. Even the name sounds bold, but you can hold it in a softer way. Think of it as a long-lived whirl in the clouds, like a slow eddy in a wide river. It is an oval-shaped storm, turning and turning, surrounded by other winds that flow past it like currents around an island. It is not a hole, it is not a wound. It is simply a place where Jupiter's atmosphere has been swirling in a stable pattern for a very long time. You might picture it like this. Imagine you're looking down at a calm, steaming cup of tea. If you stir it gently, you can create a whirlpool. The tea spins, and the motion organizes itself. Even after you stop stirring, the water keeps moving for a little while. The swirl doesn't disappear instantly. It slowly fades as the energy spreads out. Now scale that image up, not into something loud, but into something vast. Jupiter's atmosphere is always being stirred by rotation and by heat. The planet's spin guides the motion into swirling patterns. And in a world with layers and little friction, some of those patterns can keep their shape for a long time. So the Great Red Spot is like a long-lasting whirlpool in the clouds. Its colour, despite the name, is not always the same. Sometimes it looks more red, sometimes more pale. The colours on Jupiter come from chemistry in the clouds and from sunlight changing materials over time. You don't need to remember the chemical details tonight. It's enough to know that Jupiter's clouds are not all identical. Different heights, different temperatures, and different substances can make different shades, like watercolour washed across a sphere. If your mind likes simple pictures, you can imagine Jupiter as a slow-turning marble of cloud, and the Great Red Spot as a gentle thumbprint on that marble moving with the planet, always part of the flow. And now we can return to the question in a calm, practical way. Why doesn't it stop? On Earth, a storm loses energy when it rubs against the surface. Wind meets trees, buildings, hills, the motion breaks up, the storm's organization gets disturbed. Also, storms on Earth are tied closely to where warm and cool air meet, and that meeting point shifts quickly. On Jupiter, there isn't a solid surface to rub against. There are layers instead. The atmosphere is thick, and the motion can continue in a more smooth way. It's like the difference between sliding your hand over rough wood and sliding it over silk. One slows you down quickly, the other lets you keep moving. Another gentle piece of the puzzle is Jupiter's size. When something is very large, patterns can have more room to spread and stabilize. The atmosphere has so much space to move in, like a wide ocean where swells can roll for a long time. And then there is the spin. When a planet spins, moving air is guided into curves. On Earth, this effect helps shape large weather systems too. On Jupiter, it's one of the reasons storms can become organized and long-lived. The spinning doesn't create the storm by itself, but it helps the storm keep its structure, like a slow dance with the planet's rotation. If your mind feels tempted to work too hard, you can relax your effort. You don't need to solve Jupiter. You only need to let it be a calming story about motion. A huge world, a turning sphere, a deep atmosphere, long bands, gentle swirls, a famous oval storm rotating like a quiet wheel. Sometimes when people hear storm, they imagine noise and danger, but here you can imagine silence. Space is quiet. Jupiter's clouds do not roar into your room. You are safe in bed. This is weather as distant art, weather as pattern, weather as slow-living motion. And it can be comforting to know that the universe contains movement that asks nothing of you. Jupiter is busy, but it doesn't need your attention. It is doing its work whether you think about it or not. You are allowed to rest inside that truth. If you'd like, take another soft breath in and let it out slowly. Feel your chest and belly return to stillness. Now, there's another gentle idea inside Jupiter's weather that can help you drift. Jupiter's bands are like lanes in a wide river system. In some bands, winds move one way, in others, winds move the opposite way. Between them, there are boundaries where the flow changes. Those boundaries can be places where swirls form, the way a river can create eddies along its edge. So Jupiter is not just one big storm, it's a whole network of flows. Some of those flows rise and cool, some sink and warm, some make clouds thicker, some thin them out. The clouds we see are like the visible part of a deeper circulation, a planet breathing in slow motion. If you've ever watched clouds on Earth from an airplane, you might have seen how they form layers. Some are flat sheets, some are puffy towers, some are thin veils. On Jupiter, the clouds also form layers, and their appearance depends on what is happening at that height, at that temperature, in that chemistry. All of that is happening while you sleep, not to disturb you, not to threaten you. Just to exist, like a distant ocean existing under moonlight. And now, very gently, we can begin to widen our view, because Jupiter isn't only a world of storms and bands. Jupiter also has something you cannot see with your eyes at all, something that wraps around it like an invisible blanket, a magnetic field. You might already know magnets from everyday life. A magnet sticks to a refrigerator door. A magnet can hold a note in place. A magnet can pull a paper clip without touching it. That strange, simple pull is the most familiar doorway into the idea of a magnetic field. A magnetic field is simply the region around a magnet where it can push and pull certain things, even through empty space. On Earth, we live inside a magnetic field too. It helps guide compasses. It influences certain particles from the sun. It is part of what makes Earth feel like a protected home in space. Jupiter has a magnetic field as well, and it is strong and wide, not in a way that should worry you, but in a way that is quietly impressive. It's like Jupiter is carrying its own invisible bubble, a kind of private space around itself. That bubble has a name, the magnetosphere. A magnetosphere is simply the region of space shaped by a planet's magnetic field. If that sounds like a big word, you can treat it like a gentle label and nothing more. Magnetosphere means magnetic bubble. So Jupiter is quietly sitting inside its own magnetic bubble as it travels around the sun. You might wonder how a planet makes magnetic field at all. How does a world become a magnet? The simplest bedtime-safe answer is motion inside. When certain materials move deep inside a planet, they can create electric currents, and those currents can create a magnetic field. It's a bit like a generator, which simply means a machine that turns motion into electricity. In Jupiter's case, it's not a machine made by hands. It's a natural process, powered by the planet's own deep motion. You don't need to picture the details sharply. You can picture it as a slow, hidden engine, not loud, not mechanical. More like a deep current beneath the surface, always circulating. And because Jupiter is large, and because it has a lot of moving material inside, its magnetic field can be vast. Now, what does this invisible bubble do? It shapes how charged particles move around Jupiter. Charged particles are tiny bits of matter that carry an electric charge. The simplest example is an electron, which is a tiny particle that can move through space. The sun sends out many particles in a flowing stream called the solar wind, which simply means a constant breeze of particles from the sun. When that solar wind reaches a planet with a magnetic field, the field can guide and redirect those particles. It's as if the planet is holding out an invisible hand that says, gently, this way, not that way. So Jupiter's magnetosphere is like a quiet, invisible architecture. It doesn't look like a wall, but it acts like a shape. It makes pathways. It makes patterns. It can be soothing to remember that even in space, which looks empty, there are invisible structures, fields, flows, gradients, quiet things that hold form. That idea can be comforting for the mind at night. You may feel like your thoughts are floating in an empty space, but often there are invisible supports in your life too. Routines, kind people, small safe places, quiet boundaries, things that hold you without shouting about it. Jupiter has that kind of quiet boundary in space. And something beautiful can happen where particles meet a magnetic field. Auroras. You may have seen images of Earth's auroras, also called the northern lights. Soft curtains of green and purple light shimmering near the poles like the sky is breathing colour. Those lights happen when charged particles are guided by Earth's magnetic field toward the atmosphere near the poles. When they meet the gases, their energy is released as light. It is not a fire. It is not burning in a frightening way. It is more like glowing, like a neon sign glowing, but made by nature. Jupiter has auroras too. Jupiter's auroras can be bright and complex. They can form rings and spots and moving shapes near the planet's poles. And because Jupiter's magnetic field is strong, and because the environment around Jupiter is active, its auroras can be a constant shifting display. You don't have to imagine intense brightness. You can imagine a soft, steady glow, like a crown of light resting on the planet's top and bottom, flickering gently in patterns too slow to startle you. If you want a calm image, picture Jupiter as a dark striped globe, and at the very top near the pole a faint halo. At the bottom another halo. Quiet, distant, and steady. And again, this is something Jupiter is quietly doing while we sleep. It is guiding particles. It is shaping invisible paths. It is glowing softly in its own polar skies. There is something almost lullaby-like about this. The planet spins, the clouds flow, the magnetic bubble holds, the auroras glow, repeat, return, repeat. If you feel yourself relaxing more deeply now, you can let that happen. You don't need to hold on to every concept. You can let the ideas become a gentle background sound, like rain far away. Let your eyelids feel heavy. Let your face soften again. If thoughts come in, you can let them pass like a slow train in the distance. You don't have to get on. You can stay in bed. Now there's one more gentle way to connect this to your life tonight, without pretending Jupiter is controlling you. Jupiter does not decide how you feel. It does not send sleep into your room like a spell. But Jupiter is part of the same universe you live in. The same rules that shape Jupiter's storms also shape the air moving over a lake. The same idea of invisible fields can show up in simple things like a compass needle turning or a magnet pulling a paperclip. That can be comforting because it means the universe is not random chaos. It has patterns, it has rules, it has gentle consistencies, and when your mind feels anxious, consistency can feel like a handrail, so you can rest in that. A quiet world far away is spinning. Its clouds are organizing into stripes. A long-lived storm turns like a patient wheel. An invisible magnetic bubble shapes the space around it. Soft auroras glow near the poles like faint curtains. And here in your room, your breath continues, simple and steady. If you like, take one more soft breath in and let it go. Now as we continue, we'll eventually meet Jupiter's moons, the companions that circle it in a slow rhythm like music. We'll let those moons become familiar, almost like gentle characters in the dark, and we'll explore how Jupiter's gravity can guide objects in space, not with drama, but with quiet influence. But you don't need to get ahead of yourself. You can stay right here, in this moment, as if you're floating. For now, imagine the view again. You are far above Jupiter, warm and safe, watching the planet turn beneath you. The bands slide by like calm rivers. The great red spot is a slow swirl, steady and patient. Near the poles, a faint glow breathes in and out, like the planet is dreaming in light. And while Jupiter continues its silent work, you can continue doing yours, resting, letting go, drifting. If you're still awake, you can let your attention find a comfortable place to rest again, the way a cat curls into the warmest spot on a blanket. And if you're not fully awake, if you're already drifting in that soft middle place between listening and dreaming, that's completely fine too. You can take what you want from the words and let the rest fade into the background. A moment ago, we were holding Jupiter as a world of quiet motion, spinning clouds, long bands like ribbons, a slow storm turning like a patient wheel, an invisible magnetic bubble shaping the space around it, and soft auroras glowing near the poles like faint curtains of light. Now we can widen our view just a little, not by forcing your mind to work, but by letting the picture gently expand, like a dark sky opening up when your eyes adjust. Because Jupiter is not alone, Jupiter is a kind of host in the solar system, a keeper of companions. Around it, many moons travel in steady paths, some small and irregular, and some large enough to feel like worlds of their own. And there's something deeply soothing about that here, especially at night. Something big, steady, and quiet in the center, and around it smaller worlds moving in calm rhythm, a repeating, returning pattern. If you want, imagine Jupiter again turning slowly beneath you. The cloud bands slide by like wide rivers. The faint glow at the poles breathes softly. And then, one by one, points of light pass near it, circling. Moons, companions, fellow travelers. A moon is simply a body that goes around a planet. It's like a friend that doesn't leave, not because it's trapped, but because gravity makes a reliable path. Gravity is the quiet rule behind this. Gravity is the gentle pull between things with mass. It's what keeps you settled on your mattress. It's what keeps the air close to Earth. And it's what keeps moons in their looping journeys. A moon orbits, which simply means it keeps falling around a planet without crashing into it. That sounds strange at first, like a calm contradiction, but it's actually a beautiful idea when you let it soften. Imagine you throw a ball. It falls down because of gravity. Now imagine you throw it so far and so fast that the ground curves away under it. The ball keeps falling, but it never meets the ground. It keeps missing it over and over, making a circle. That's an orbit. Falling, but in a way that becomes a path. So when a moon circles Jupiter, it is falling around Jupiter in a steady dance. And among Jupiter's many moons, there are 4 that feel especially important, because they are large, and because they were among the first discovered with a telescope. They are called the Galilean moons, which simply means the 4 big moons first noticed by Galileo. Their names are soft and old, like names you might find in a story: Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. You don't need to memorize them, you can let them wash over you like gentle notes in music. Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. Repeat, return, repeat. These 4 moons are different from each other, like 4 rooms in the same quiet house. Each has its own personality, each holds a different kind of landscape, and together they make Jupiter feel like a small solar system of its own. Let's begin with Io. Io is the closest of the 4 to Jupiter, and because it is close, it feels Jupiter's pull strongly, not in a scary way, but in a constant way. The push and pull of gravity can gently squeeze a moon, stretching it and relaxing it, like kneading soft dough very slowly. This squeezing creates heat inside Io, and that heat can escape in a dramatic way, not toward you, not into your room, but on Io itself, through volcanoes. Io is known for being volcanic, which simply means it has places where melted rock can reach the surface and flow out. It's like a moon that cannot sit still, a moon that is always releasing energy, always changing its face. You can picture Io as bright and active, with patches of colour on its surface. Not bright like a lamp, but bright like a pale stone under sunlight. And you can imagine those volcanoes as distant, silent fountains, happening in a place where there is no air to carry sound. That image alone can feel strange and calming. A volcanic eruption with no roar, motion without noise, change without sound. Space is good at that. It lets big things happen quietly. If your mind begins to wander, that's okay. You can let it drift and still keep one simple thought. Io is warmed from the inside by gravity's gentle squeezing, and it releases that warmth through volcanoes. Now, let's move a little farther out to Europa. Europa is often imagined as a moon of ice. Its surface is bright and smooth compared to many other moons, like a pale shell. It is crisscrossed with lines and cracks, as if the ice has shifted, and healed and shifted again. But the quiet mystery of Europa is what might be underneath. Many scientists think Europa may have an ocean below its icy surface, an ocean hidden under a lid of ice, a secret sea, dark and deep, protected from the emptiness of space. You don't need to picture anything frightening in that darkness. You can picture it as peaceful, like water in a cave, like a calm lake under winter ice, still heavy and quiet. If you have ever been near a frozen pond, you may have felt how the ice makes a boundary. Above the ice, there's a crisp air and wind. Below the ice, the water is slower, insulated, protected. Europa might be like that, but on a grand scale. A world with a hard, cold shell, and possibly a gentle moving ocean beneath. And there's something comforting in that image too, a reminder that what you see on the surface is not always the whole story. Beneath the surface there can be warmth. Beneath the surface there can be motion. Beneath the surface there can be hidden calm. Europa holds its mystery softly. It doesn't demand answers, it simply invites wonder. So you can let Europa be a quiet secret in your mind tonight. A smooth ice moon, cracked like delicate glass, with the possibility of an unseen ocean sleeping under its shell. Now, drift outward again to Ganymede. Ganymede is the largest of the four. In fact, it is the largest moon in the entire solar system. Large enough that it feels like a planet in its own right, only it travels around Jupiter instead of travelling directly around the Sun. You can picture Ganymede as a world-sized moon, with a surface that shows a history, like pages in an old book. Some regions look older, marked by many craters. Other regions look younger, with grooves and patterns that suggest the surface has shifted over time. Ganymede is a reminder that moons can be complex. They are not just round rocks. They can have layers, they can have history, they can have hidden activity, they can be worlds. And when you imagine Ganymede circling Jupiter, you can feel the scale deepen again. Jupiter is so large it can host a moon the size of a world and still keep it moving in a steady path. And then, farther out still, there is Callisto. Callisto is often described as ancient-looking. Its surface is heavily cratered, which means it is marked by many impact scars from long ago. A crater is simply a bowl-shaped mark where something struck the surface in the past. On Callisto, those marks are many, like freckles on old skin. But you don't need to think about the violence of those events. You can think about time. Callisto is like a face that has been quietly watching for ages, recording what happened and then settling into stillness again. If Io feels busy and restless, and Europa feels secret and protected, and Ganymede feels grand and layered, then Callisto feels calm and slow, like an old stone resting in moonlight. It's peaceful to imagine Callisto moving through space without sound, carrying its ancient patterns, circling and circling in the same calm rhythm. And now, let the names come again, like a lullaby. Io, the warm and volcanic moon. Europa, the icy moon with a hidden possibility beneath. Ganymede, the world-sized moon. Callisto, the old cratered, quiet one. As you hold these moons in your mind, you may notice something about your own thoughts. When your mind has a gentle structure to follow, it often becomes less anxious. It stops racing. It begins to settle into rhythm. This is one reason bedtime stories help people sleep, not because the story solves everything, but because it offers a pattern, a path. Jupiter's moons offer a path too. They circle, they return, they repeat. And there's another quiet pattern here that can feel soothing. These moons don't just orbit in random ways. Some of them have a kind of timing relationship, almost like music. When one moon completes an orbit, another moon may complete 2, and another might complete 4, in a repeating pattern. You don't need the numbers, you can simply imagine it like this. The moons are in a gentle rhythm with each other, like steps in a slow dance. This kind of relationship is called resonance, which simply means their orbits are linked in a repeating timing pattern. Resonance is a lovely word for bedtime. It suggests things that echo, things that match, things that harmonize. It's like when you hear a soft sound and it feels like it fits the room, or when two breaths find the same pace, or when waves reach shore in steady repetition. So Jupiter's moons don't just circle, they resonate, they keep time. And now we can bring this back to the most comforting part of the story. Gravity as a lullaby rhythm. Gravity holds the moons without gripping them harshly. It guides them without shouting. It keeps them near without trapping them. And if you've ever felt anxious about being held in a routine, or stuck in a feeling, this is a gentle metaphor to keep close. Being held does not have to mean being trapped. A stable orbit can be freedom too. It can be a safe path you don't have to invent each day. You can let that idea soothe you tonight. You're allowed to rest inside something steady. If you like, take a slow breath in and let it out. Feel your body return to the bed. Now, Let's widen the view again beyond the moons to the quiet work Jupiter does on a larger scale. Because Jupiter is not only a world with clouds and storms and an invisible magnetic bubble, Jupiter is also a major source of gravity in our solar system. And gravity is one of the ways Jupiter quietly shapes what happens around it, even far from its own cloud tops. To picture this in a simple, calm way, imagine a soft blanket stretched flat. Now place a heavy ball in the center of the blanket. The blanket dips, it curves. And if you roll a marble nearby, the marble will follow the curve. It might circle, it might drift inward. It might be guided into a new path. That blanket picture is a gentle way to imagine gravity. Gravity is like a curve in the space around a massive object. It guides how other things move. So Jupiter, being very massive, makes a significant curve in the blanket of space around it. Again, you don't need the full physics tonight. You only need the calm image. Jupiter is a heavy presence in the solar system's blanket, and it quietly influences the paths of smaller objects. These smaller objects can be dust, they can be chunks of rock, they can be icy bodies that travel through the solar system in long paths. Sometimes people talk about comets in a way that sounds dramatic, but you can hold them gently. A comet is simply an icy object that travels around the sun. When it comes closest to the sun, it can warm up and release gas and dust, forming a glowing tail. It is not a monster. It is a traveler made of ice and dust catching sunlight. And in the solar system, there are many such travelers. There are also asteroids, which are rocky objects, often smaller than moons moving around the sun. Jupiter's gravity can influence these travelers. It can change their paths. It can guide them into new orbits. It can, in some cases, help keep certain regions more stable. It's like Jupiter is a quiet traffic guide in the solar system. Not an officer with a whistle, but a large roundabout that shapes how cars move. The roundabout doesn't chase anyone. It simply exists, and because it exists, paths bend around it. This is the kind of quiet influence that feels soothing to imagine, because it is power without noise, strength without shouting, but it's also balanced. Nature rarely plays only one role. Jupiter can sometimes deflect objects, meaning it can shift them away from the inner solar system. And Jupiter can sometimes redirect objects in other ways too. It's not a simple fairy tale where a big planet is only a protector. It's more like a steady presence that shapes the whole environment. The key bedtime idea is not fear. The key idea is shape. Jupiter shapes paths. It shapes the neighborhood. It shapes the rhythms. And it does it quietly. There's a particularly gentle example of this shaping that can feel almost charming. Along Jupiter's path around the Sun, there are groups of asteroids that travel with it, like quiet companions. These are called Trojan asteroids, which simply means asteroids that share Jupiter's orbit in a stable way, gathering in two regions ahead of Jupiter and behind Jupiter. If that sounds complicated, here is the soft version. Imagine Jupiter moving along a circular track. Now imagine two clusters of small stones moving along the same track. One group a little ahead, one group a little behind, like birds flying in formation. They aren't glued to Jupiter. They are simply in a stable relationship with its gravity and the Sun's gravity, a balance of pulls that creates safe zones where objects can travel together. That's a remarkable thought, and also a sleepy one. Even in the emptiness of space there can be gatherings. Even in wide open motion there can be stability. Even in constant movement there can be places that feel like home. Jupiter is quietly maintaining those kinds of structures as it goes. And as you imagine this, you might notice how your mind responds to the idea of stable zones, safe zones, places where motion becomes predictable and calm. Your bed is a stable zone right at now. Your room is a stable zone. Even your breath is a stable zone, returning again and again. So the solar system mirrors your night in a gentle way. A big central light, worlds and moons moving in rhythms, quiet gravitational structure shaping pathways, and you are allowed to rest inside the bigger pattern without having to control any of it. Now, if you are still extra awake, you might wonder something simple and sweet. How do we know all this? How do we know about Jupiter's moons, its storms, its magnetic bubble, its auroras, its gravity-shaping paths? We know because humans are curious in a patient way. We build tools that extend our senses. We make telescopes that gather light. We send spacecraft that take careful measurements. We watch and we watch again. We compare. We learn slowly. That's a comforting part of science too. It is not only about answers, it's about attention. Science is careful attention, and careful attention can be a bedtime skill as well when it is soft and kind. You are giving your attention to something large and calm instead of giving it to worry. You are letting your mind rest on a steady image instead of looping on anxious thoughts. So even if you don't remember every detail later, your nervous system still benefits from the shift. Now, let's return to the moons again, because they are such a gentle bridge between the human scale and the cosmic scale. Think of Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto as 4 companions moving through dark silence. Each one reflects sunlight in its own way. Each one has its own texture, its own story. Io, warm and active, reshaping itself with volcanoes. Europa, bright and smooth, holding the possibility of a hidden ocean. Ganymede, large and layered, a moon that feels like a planet. Callisto, old and cricket. Harrying there. Memory. Time. And all of them are held in orbit by Jupiter's gravity. They don't need engines, they don't need fuel, they don't need to decide where to go each day. Their paths are written into the balance of forces, like a melody written into the strings of an instrument. That kind of effortless motion can be deeply soothing to imagine when you're trying to sleep. Because at night, the mind often feels like it must keep running, keep planning, keep doing, but the universe is full of motion that requires no effort from the moving thing. Orbits are like that. Planets and moons simply move. They don't strain, they don't worry, they follow the curve, and you can borrow that feeling tonight. Let your breath follow its curve. Let your thoughts follow their curve, drifting and returning. Let your body follow its curve, sinking deeper into the mattress. Now, there's one more quiet detail we can add to the picture of Jupiter's influence without making anything heavy. Jupiter is so big that it affects not only nearby objects, but the general structure of the solar system over long time scales. It participates in shaping where small bodies tend to gather, where gaps form, or where stable regions exist. This is not something you need to visualize precisely. You can treat it like the role of a large rock in a stream. Place a large rock in moving water, and the water's paths change. Some parts speed up, some slow down, little eddies form. Calm zones appear behind the rock. The whole flow is quietly reshaped. Jupiter is like that rock in the flowing stream of the solar system. It reshapes the motion around it. It creates calm zones and dynamic zones. It guides and influences simply by being what it is. Sometimes the strongest things work silently, by simply being there. That line can settle in your mind like a soft pillow. Sometimes the strongest things work silently, and if you've been carrying too much today, if you've been trying to force outcomes, trying to solve problems in your head, you can let this be a gentle permission slip. You don't always need to push, you don't always need to perform, you can simply be and let the night do its quiet work around you. Now, before we move onward later into even fainter, whisper-like details of Jupiter, there's another soft thing to remember about this planet. Not everything about Jupiter is bright and obvious. Some of its features are subtle, almost secret. For example, Jupiter has rings. When most people think of rings, they think of Saturn, bright and wide and dramatic. Jupiter's rings are not like that. Jupiter's rings are faint. They are made of fine dust and tiny particles, more like a whisper than a shout. Imagine a beam of light in a dark room, and how you can sometimes see dust floating in it, sparkling quietly. Jupiter's rings are closer to that feeling, a thin, delicate structure of tiny pieces circling the planet, hard to see unless you know where to look. This is a gentle reminder that the universe has soft details too, not only bold ones. Some things are almost invisible but still real. And sometimes the faintest things are the most comforting to think about, because they require you to slow down to notice them. How do we know Jupiter has rings, if they are so faint? We know because we looked carefully. Telescopes improved. Spacecraft passed by, instruments gathered light and measured particles. Science is again careful attention. And careful attention is exactly what your mind can practice tonight, without effort. You're noticing a slow story, you're letting it pass through you, you're letting your body relax inside it. At this point you might feel your awareness softening around the edges, like fog creeping in gently. If you do, let it happen. That is the drift beginning. That is your nervous system choosing rest. And if you're still awake, that's fine too. You can keep listening. Either way, you're doing it right. Let's return one more time to the central image of the title, so it stays simple. While you sleep, Jupiter spins. Its clouds move in wide bands. A long-lived storm turns patiently. Its magnetic field holds an invisible bubble around it. Auroras glow near its poles like soft crowns of light. Moons circle it in steady rhythm, like music you can feel more than you can hear. And Jupiter's gravity quietly shapes paths in the solar system, guiding dust and rock and ice into patterns that last. That's what it is quietly doing. Not because you asked it to, not because it knows you're listening, simply because it is Jupiter and this is its nature. Now, take a slow breath in and let it out. Feel the bed under you. Feel how your body is supported. Feel how your room stays calm and still. And let your mind rest on the thought that the universe is wide and patterned and quietly active, and you don't have to manage any of it tonight. In a little while, we'll wander further into those faint rings and the way Jupiter's quiet details are discovered through patient looking. We'll also connect Jupiter's distant rhythm to the gentle rhythm of your own night in a way that feels warm and safe, not demanding. But for now, you can just float. You can imagine Jupiter turning like a slow lantern in the dark. You can imagine its moons returning again and again to the same calm paths. And you can let your thoughts do the same. Drift, return, drift again. And if sleep comes, let it come softly, like a blanket settling into place. If you're still here with me, you can let your attention settle again, like a leaf finding the quietest place on water. And if you're only half here, if you're already sliding gently towards sleep, that's just as good. You can keep listening without trying. You can let the words be a soft background, like distant waves behind a closed window. A moment ago, we held Jupiter as a planet that does its work quietly, It spins. It stirs its cloud bands into long, steady patterns. It holds moons in calm rhythm. It shapes paths with gravity. It carries an invisible magnetic bubble, and it glows with auroras near its poles like faint crowns of light. Now we'll connect that distant world to something closer, not in a magical way, not as if Jupiter is controlling your night, but in a comforting, simple way. Because Jupiter is part of the same story you are part of. The same rules that keep your body resting on a mattress also shape Jupiter's clouds. The same idea of motion and balance that keeps your breath smooth also keeps moons circling. When the mind feels tired or anxious, it can be soothing to remember that the universe is not only big, but also consistent. Not perfectly predictable in every detail, but patterned enough to feel like a gentle handrail in the dark. Think about what you're doing right now. You're lying down. You're letting muscles soften. You're letting your breathing return to its own quiet rhythm. You're allowing the day to release its grip. That's a pattern too. And patterns are everywhere. In the way waves repeat on a shore. In the way clouds arrange themselves into layers. In the way seasons return. In the way your heart keeps time quietly without asking for applause. Jupiter is full of patterns that you can borrow as a soothing place to rest your mind. One of the gentlest patterns is the idea of light itself. If you were to step outside and look up, and if Jupiter happened to be visible from where you are, you'd see it as a bright point, calm and steady. But here is a dreamy, comforting detail. You would not be seeing Jupiter as it is in this exact second. You would be seeing Jupiter as it was a little while ago. 'Cause light takes time to travel. Light is fluxed incredibly fast, but space is wide. So even fast things take time to cross it. That means the glow of Jupiter you see in the sky is like a quiet postcard that has been traveling for a while before it reaches you. It's such a gentle idea to hold at bedtime. When you look at a planet, you're looking through time just a little. Not in a dramatic way, not in a science fiction way, just in a soft, natural way. And if that makes your mind curious, you can let it be curious without effort. You can simply imagine light as a calm messenger, gliding through the dark without making a sound, carrying information from far away. There is something comforting in that quiet journey. It means the universe is always sharing itself slowly, gently, without needing anything from you. Light leaves the sun, touches Jupiter, bounces away and travels onward. And some of it sometimes finds your eyes. It's like the solar system is speaking in whispers, and your gaze can catch a few of them. And even if you never look up tonight, the fact remains. The light is traveling anyway. The conversation continues. The universe doesn't pause just because you're tired. It keeps going, and you can rest. This is a good place to remind you again softly that you don't need to stay awake for all of this. You don't need to understand every sentence. If your mind drifts, you can let it drift. Sleep is not failure here. Sleep is the point. Now let's connect Jupiter to Earth in another simple way. Jupiter is far away, but it is made of the same kinds of ingredients that the rest of the solar system is made of. Gas, dust, ice, rock, light, motion, gravity, and it follows the same rules. That can sound ordinary, but it's quietly a must, because it means the laws of nature don't change just because you're far from home. The same ideas that shape a breeze outside your window can shape winds on a giant planet. The same kinds of forces that guide a falling leaf can guide a moon in orbit. This shared physics is a comforting kind of unity. It says you are not living in a strange random corner of reality. You are living in a universe with repeating themes. If you've ever listened to a piece of music where a melody returns, you know the feeling. The first time you hear it, it's just sound. The second time it feels familiar. The third time it feels like home. Science can feel like that too, especially when it's told slowly. A theme appears, it repeats, it returns in a new place in a new form, and your mind relaxes because it recognizes the pattern. Jupiter gives us many of those repeating themes. Clouds and bands like jet streams, swirls and eddies like currents in water, invisible fields like magnets, orbits like a slow dance. Even the idea of breathing motion, air rising and sinking, appears again and again because it's a basic way energy moves. And energy in simple terms is just the ability to make things happen, the ability to move, the ability to warm, the ability to change. Jupiter has energy. It receives it from the sun. It releases some from its own deep interior, and its atmosphere responds, moving in great slow patterns. If that feels like too much to hold, you can simplify it down to a single calm sentence. Jupiter is warm in different places, so its air moves. That's enough for bedtime. And now, because bedtime minds like softness, let's bring this into a more poetic, comforting frame. Imagine Jupiter as a distant ocean of cloud. Not an ocean you could sail, not an ocean that could reach you, just an ocean-like world where the water is gas and cloud and the waves are bands and storms, moving slowly under sunlight. Now imagine your room. Your room is also an ocean in its own way. It's full of air, full of softness, full of tiny currents you usually don't notice. Warm air rising near a lamp, cooler air sinking near a window, your breath creating the smallest breeze, different scale, same kind of idea, so you can feel connected without feeling overwhelmed. You can feel small without feeling insignificant. Sometimes smallness is comforting. It means you don't have to carry the whole universe on your shoulders tonight. The universe is already carrying itself. Jupiter is already turning, the moons are already circling, the light is already travelling. You can stop trying to hold everything and simply rest inside the larger motion. If you want, take a slow breath in and let it out softly. Now, there's another gentle connection to everyday life that can be surprisingly soothing. Time, Jupiter teaches patience. Not because it's trying to teach you, but because it moves on scales that naturally slow your thinking down. When you picture a storm as wide as a planet, you cannot rush it. When you picture moons circling in steady rhythm, you cannot demand they hurry. Jupiter is a reminder that not everything needs to be fast. That can be helpful at night, because anxious thoughts often speed up. They jump ahead, they replay, they race. But when you give your mind a slow object to rest on, your thoughts often begin to match the pace. A slow planet, a slow turning, a long-lived storm, a quiet repeating orbit. Your nervous system can start to downshift, as if it's being gently invited into a slower world. So you can let Jupiter set the tempo tonight, not by force, not by effort, just by presence. And here's a quiet wow you can hold without making it dramatic. The universe is active, but it does not need to be threatening. From your bed, it can be like watching the tide from a safe cliff. You can sense the movement. You can appreciate its beauty, but you're not required to step into it. You are safe where you are. Space can feel like that. A calm ocean of motion. Beautiful, distant, and safe to imagine from a warm room. If you notice any tightness in your chest or shoulders right now, you can let that image help. You can remind yourself gently that you are not out there. You are here. You are held. You are saying you're allowed to fall asleep. Now, let's make the science even softer by noticing how Jupiter's patterns echo patterns you may have already seen. Have you ever watched clouds at sunset, when the sky becomes layered and the clouds line up in streaks? That's Earth's atmosphere organizing itself into patterns, guided by winds and temperature differences. Have you ever watched a river from a bridge and seen how the surface looks smooth in some places and swirly in others? That's flow organizing itself, guided by boundaries and speed changes. Have you ever held a magnet and felt its pull without seeing anything at all? That's an invisible field doing quiet work. These are small versions of the same kinds of ideas we meet on Jupiter. Not identical, but related. And the mind loves related things because they reduce fear. When something feels familiar, it feels safer. Jupiter becomes less like an alien world and more like a distant cousin of patterns you already know. So if your mind has been feeling tense, you can offer it that gentle familiarity. Clouds are clouds, flow is flow, fields are fields, gravity is gravity. Scale changes, but the theme stays, and now we can begin to let the language become more repetitive and meditative. Just a little, because that's the bridge into sleep. Jupiter turns, clouds drift, and bands stretch around the planet like ribbons. A storm swirls in a slow oval. A magnetic bubble holds an invisible shape. Auroras glow softly at the poles. Moon circle, return, circle again, and while all of this happens, you breathe. In, out, in, out. If you're still awake and you want one more gentle detail, we can add it in the simplest way possible. Jupiter's rings, those faint dusty rings, are another quiet example of structure. Even tiny particles can organize into a ring when gravity and motion guide them. It's like dust in a beam of light forming a soft line, except this line is around a planet, held in place by orbit. And that can be a comforting thought too. Even small scattered things can become a pattern. Even tiny pieces can find a shared path. Even dust can form a whisper of order. If your thoughts feel scattered tonight, you can borrow that. You don't have to force your mind into perfect neatness. You can simply let it settle into a looser, gentler order, the way dust settles when the air is still. Now, before we drift further, I want to place one more calm reassurance in your night. You're not behind, you're not failing at sleep, you're not doing anything wrong if your mind is active, you're simply human, and your brain is doing what brains do, and right now you're giving it a softer place to rest. So let's rest again in the central image. A quiet room, a warm bed, a slow breath, and far away, a bright planet doing its steady work. Jupiter is quietly moving, shaping, guiding, glowing, and holding, and you are quietly letting go. If you'd like, take one more slow breath in and let it out. And as you exhale, imagine your thoughts becoming wider and slower, like Jupiter's bands stretching gently around a globe. Not tight, not urgent, just flowing. In the next stretch of our bedtime journey, we'll let the focus soften even more. We'll return to those repeating anchors, bands, spin, moons, gravity, and we'll start to speak in a rhythm that is designed to carry you downward, like a slow staircase made of warm air. But you don't need to prepare. You can simply be here, listening or half listening, awake or drifting, held by the bed, the way a moon is held by gravity, quietly, reliably, and somewhere in the dark beyond Earth's sky, Jupiter keeps the night shift. If you're still awake, you can let your mind settle again the way a curtain settles after a breeze. And if you're not fully awake, if you're already slipping into that soft in-between place, you don't have to pull yourself back. You can let the words arrive and leave. You can take them lightly. You can rest. We've been holding Jupiter in a calm picture tonight, a bright point that is actually a world. A world made of layers, not a floor. A world that turns steadily, shaping its clouds into wide bands and letting storms become long, patient swirls. A world wrapped in an invisible magnetic bubble, with quiet auroras glowing near the poles. A world with moons that circle in gentle rhythm, returning again and again, like music you don't have to sing. Now let's touch one last quiet detail of Jupiter's night work, something subtle, something almost secret. Jupiter has rings, not bright rings that shout for attention like Saturn's famous rings. Jupiter's rings are faint. They are more like whispers around the planet, made of tiny bits of dust and small particles that circle in orbit. They don't announce themselves easily. They don't demand to be seen. They are the kind of detail you find only when you look with patience. If you want a gentle image, picture a dark room with a thin beam of light coming through a window. In that beam you can sometimes see floating dust, drifting slowly, glimmering as it turns. Jupiter's rings are closer to that feeling than to any shiny, dramatic hoop. And this can be soothing because it reminds the tired mind that the universe is not only made of bold features, it is also made of quiet ones, soft ones, the kinds of things you notice only when you slow down. You might wonder how we know Jupiter has rings if they are so faint, and the answer is simple and kind. We know because people looked carefully. We built better telescopes. We sent spacecraft that flew past Jupiter and measured what was there. We used instruments that can detect faint light and tiny particles. Science is often just that, careful attention over time. There is something comforting about this method. It says you don't have to force understanding all at once. You can learn slowly. You can return to an idea again later. You can notice more the second time than the first. That is allowed. And that is also how sleep works. You don't usually fall asleep by force. You fall asleep by returning to comfort. You fall asleep by soft repetition. You fall asleep by letting go in small steps. So even the way we learn about Jupiter can match the way you drift toward rest. Now let's gently connect Jupiter's story back to your life tonight, in a grounded way. Not as if Jupiter is controlling you, not as if it is sending something into your room, but simply as a reminder that you live inside the universe with patterns, and patterns can feel safe. The same basic rules that shape Jupiter also shape your night. Gravity, which keeps Jupiter gathered into a sphere, also keeps you resting on the bed. Motion, which keeps Jupiter's clouds flowing, also keeps air moving gently through your room. Light, which reflects off Jupiter and travels through space, also touches your walls, even if only as a dim glow from a lamp or a street light. And this shared physics is a quiet comfort. It means you are not living in a random place where anything could happen for no reason. You are living in a world with structure, with regularities, with repeating themes. If you've ever found comfort in routine, you already understand this feeling. The nervous system likes a handrail. It likes to know what comes next. It likes gentle predictability. And the universe, in its own wide way, offers that. Not perfect predictability, but enough rhythm to be calming. One of the loveliest rhythms to think about at bedtime is the travel of light. If you were to look at Jupiter in the sky, you would be seeing reflected sunlight that has taken time to reach you. Light does not appear instantly. It moves very fast, but it still takes time to cross distance. So the Jupiter you see is Jupiter from a little while ago, like a calm postcard delivered through space, like a soft message that took its time. That can feel oddly soothing. It's a reminder that the universe is always in gentle conversation with itself. Light leaves the sun, it touches Jupiter, it bounces away, it travels outward, quietly without sound. And some of it reaches Earth, some of it reaches your neighborhood, sometimes it reaches your eyes. Even if you never look up, the travel continues. The message keeps moving and you can rest, knowing the universe can handle its own motion while you sleep. There's another calming lesson Jupiter offers, and it's the lesson of scale. Jupiter is huge, its weather is vast, its bands stretch around the entire planet, its storms can be larger than anything on Earth, its magnetic bubble reaches far into space. Its moons make a small system of their own. And when you imagine something that large, your daily worries can shrink a little, not because they aren't real, but because they aren't the whole world. The mind often tightens when it believes a problem is everything. Scale can loosen that grip. Scale can whisper gently that you don't have to solve your whole life tonight. Tonight can be small. Tonight can be simple. Tonight can be breath and bed and quiet. And far away, Jupiter can keep turning without asking anything of you. Jupiter also offers the lesson of patience. Many things on Jupiter happen in slow patterns. The planet turns steadily, its storms move in patient swirls, its bands shift and return, moons circle and circle, completing their paths again and again. It's hard to rush an orbit, it's hard to hurry a planet, and when your mind is tired, when it has been racing all day, it can help to rest your attention on something that refuses to hurry. Not stubbornly, just naturally. Jupiter does not speed up to match human urgency, it simply continues. You can borrow that pace. Let your thoughts slow to Jupiter's pace. Let your breath slow to Jupiter's pace. Let your body soften to Jupiter's pace. If anxious thoughts appear, you don't have to argue with them. You can place them on the surface of a wide, slow river and watch them drift downstream. Jupiter's banded clouds can be that river in your imagination, moving on and on, carrying everything gently along. Now, let's bring in one more soft connection to nature on Earth, because familiarity makes things feel safe. Think of cloud bands on Jupiter like cloud streaks at sunset on Earth. Different scale, same idea of air, organizing itself into layers. Think of Jupiter's swirling storms like eddies in a river, where the flow curves and turns in a stable pattern. Think of Jupiter's magnetic field like a magnet near your hand, invisible but real, shaping what moves around it. Think of Jupiter's auroras like the northern lights, soft curtains of glow. These echoes can help your mind relax because they turn unknown into related. They turn alien into familiar cousin. And now, because this is a bedtime space, we can begin to drift into the gentler phase where the ideas become simpler and more repetitive. This is where the information stops trying to build and starts trying to soothe. You don't have to stay awake for this, you can let it wash over you like warm water. Jupiter turns, Jupiter drifts through space-G. Jupiter holds its clouds in wide bands. Jupiter keeps a slow storm turning. Jupiter carries an invisible magnetic bubble. Jupiter glows softly near its poles. Jupiter holds moons in orbit, and the moons return and return again, and you breathe in, out, in, out. If your mind wants a picture to rest on, here is one. Imagine you are far above Jupiter, floating safely, as if you are wrapped in warmth. There is no cold touching you. There is no wind touching you. It is simply a calm viewpoint, like watching something beautiful from a distance. Below you, Jupiter's cloud tops are spread out like quilts, soft creams, gentle tans, pale browns, faint whites. The colours are muted and sleepy like a painting seen in low light. The bands move slowly like long rivers, not rushing, not splashing, just sliding along in steady flow. You notice a swirl, an oval shape turning patiently. The great red spot, though it might not look very red right now in your imagination, it can be more like a warm, toned oval, a signature in the clouds. It turns like a slow wheel, and the surrounding winds curve around it like water around a stone. Above the poles, there is a faint glow, a soft halo, aurora light, quietly shimmering, as if the planet is wearing a delicate crown. And around Jupiter, at different distances, moons circle in silence. They don't need engines. They don't need to decide. They simply follow their paths. Now, let your mind drift closer to the moons, because rhythm is one of the best lullabies. First, you can think of Io. Io, bright and warm in its own way, kneaded by gravity's gentle squeeze, releasing heat through volcanoes that erupt without sound. Io circles, returns, circles again. Now Europa. Europa, smooth and pale, covered in ice like a shell, holding the possibility of a hidden ocean beneath, a secret sea under a quiet lid. Europa circles, returns, circles again. Now, Ganymede. Ganymede, the world-sized moon, carrying its old patterns and its shifting history, moving like a calm traveller through dark space. Ganymede circles, returns, circles again. Now Callisto. Callisto, old and cratered, like a sleepy face marked by time, still and steady, circling without hurry. Callisto circles, returns, circles again. You don't have to remember which is which. You can simply let the names become soft sounds. Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. A gentle sequence like 4 slow breaths. Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. And as they circle, you can notice what happens in your own body when you listen to repetition. Often the muscles let go a little more. The jaw softens again, the shoulders drop another small step. The eyelids feel heavier. Let that happen. Now we can widen outward again, not quickly but slowly. Imagine Jupiter moving through the solar system like a calm lantern travelling along a wide path. The sun is far away, a steady, warm source of light. Jupiter is much farther from the sun than Earth is, but sunlight still reaches it, still touches its clouds, still makes it shine. And Jupiter's gravity, the quiet curve it makes in space, guides other things. Dust, small rocks, icy travellers, not in a loud way, not like a chase, more like a landscape guiding a rolling marble. If you return to the blanket image, Jupiter is the heavy ball Biesel making a dip in the blanket, and smaller objects move along the curves of that blanket. Paths bend gently, orbits form, stable regions appear. Even the Trojan asteroids, those quiet clusters that travel with Jupiter, can be imagined as small pebbles that have found a calm place in the flow, ahead and behind, like birds in formation. And again, you don't need the details, you can keep it as a simple, sleepy truth. Jupiter shapes paths, quietly, steadily. While you sleep, now let the language soften further. Let the ideas become fewer, and the feeling become more important. Jupiter turns, clouds drift, bands slide like rivers, a storm swirls, a halo glows, moons circle, gravity holds, light travels, and you rest. If you notice any part of your body still holding tension, you can let this be a gentle moment to release it, without forcing anything. Let the space between your eyebrows soften. Let your tongue rest. Let your shoulders melt into the bed. Let your hands be heavy. Let your belly rise and fall naturally. Let your legs sink. You're supported. You're safe. You're allowed to stop trying. Now we can do a slow zoom, outward and inward, the way a dream sometimes changes its distance. Zoom outward first. Picture the solar system as a quiet, dark room. In the center, the sun is a warm lamp. Closer in, small rocky worlds move, including Earth, your home. Farther out, larger worlds move, including Jupiter, a giant made of layers, banded and glowing faintly. Beyond that, more worlds, quieter and colder, moving slowly. Everything is in motion, but it is not chaotic. It is patterned. It is guided by gravity. It is shaped by the same rules everywhere. Now zoom inward. Come back to your room, the air around you, the softness of the bedding, the stillness, the dim light or the darkness, your own breath steady and simple. The universe is wide and it is moving, and you are here, held gently, doing the most natural thing a body can do at night, resting. If you are still awake, you might notice that your mind is quieter now than it was earlier, not because every worry is solved, but because your attention has been resting on something steady. That's enough. That's how nervous systems downshift. And if your mind is not quieter, that's okay too. You're still safe. You can still rest. Even a busy mind can sleep when the body feels supported and the environment feels calm. So let's make the words even more like a lullaby now. More repetition, more softness, less new information. Jupiter turns, Jupiter turns, Jupiter turns. Clouds drift, bands slide, A slow storm swirls patiently, a faint glow shimmers quietly. Moons circle and circle and circle, gravity holds them and holds them and holds them, and you breathe in, out. Now imagine the bed as your own gentle orbit. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to solve anything. You can simply follow the curve into sleep. Held, not trapped. Supported, not pressured. Safe, not hurried. If thoughts appear, you can treat them like small moons passing through the sky of your mind. You don't have to grab them, you don't have to chase them, you can let them pass and return to the steady center again, return to the breath, return to the feeling of the mattress under you, return to the quiet image of Jupiter turning in the distance. And if you like, you can imagine that Jupiter is doing the night shift for you, not as a character with a job, but as a symbol of steady continuation, a reminder that the universe can keep moving while you rest, and nothing breaks when you let go. Now, just a little more softness. Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, Io, Europa. Ganymede, Althea, Callisto. Each name can be a slow step downward, like walking gently down a staircase made of warm air. Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. And if the names fade, that's fine. If they blur, that's fine. If you forget them, that's fine. You don't have to remember, you only have to rest. If you are already sleeping, the words can become part of the background of your dream, like distant music. And if you're still awake, you can let your wakefulness be soft. You don't have to be frustrated. You can simply be awake in a calm way, listening, letting the nervous system settle. Now, a calm summary. Like folding a blanket, simple and warm. Jupiter is a world of layers, not a floor. It spins steadily, shaping its clouds into wide bands. It carries storms that can last a long time, moving like slow swirls. It holds an invisible magnetic bubble around itself, guiding particles. It glows with auroras near its poles, like faint crowns of light. It holds moons in orbit in steady rhythm. It shapes paths in the solar system with quiet gravity, and it even has faint rings like whispers of dust. That is what Jupiter is quietly doing while we sleep. And what are you doing? You are letting go. You are resting. You are allowing your body to return to its natural night state. Now, let the ending be open, not sharp. There's nothing you need to do after this, no final task, no sudden goodbye, just the quiet feeling of being held in a calm moment. You can let the words become slower in your mind. You can let the pauses grow longer. You can let your breath become the main sound you notice. In, out, and somewhere far away Jupiter continues, turning, drifting, holding, glowing, while you sleep. Good night.